This is update for September 8, 2022, day 197 of the war, end of the date update. So as we're gonna focus on this Ukrainian offensive that aimed at Kupiansk, and just general, probably we're just gonna discuss general strategic situation. So this offensive was extremely successful in our opinion, and it was pretty well executed by Ukrainian, planned by Ukrainian command and executed by Ukrainian army. At this point, Ukrainian troops reached Oskil River south of Kupyansk in the village Senkove. So this really means that the supply route that goes through Kupiansk is cut off, even though Kupiansk was still in the evening was still in Russian hands. Nevertheless, that route was severed and is not available to Izyum, Russian Izium group. So what this really means is that the initial phase was definitely won by Ukrainian troops. Now there's going to be a second phase of this operation where Russian command probably will try to do some kind of counterattack. Will be very, very strange if they don't try to do any counterattack. And there are some reports that on the morning of the 9th, there are some Russian troops that are approaching and starting to put pressure on Ukrainian troops. So it remains to be seen if that's real or not, but that would be very strange. So if Ukrainian troops and command manage to hold on to the victory, meaning successfully defending against the Russian counterattack that's impending in our opinion, then this is definitely going to be total disaster for Russian troops, and probably will mean loss pretty much all of the equipment that's on Izium bridgehead, and lost significant portion of the soldiers, of the infantry there, and that really means that this will tilt the balance of power significantly into Ukrainian favor on sort of this whole call it Kharkiv and Donbas region and Zaporizhia region, and that really means that all of this offensive here in specifically North Donbas and Central Donbas region will be ground to halt. And really what this means, and once the Russian troops are sort of destroyed on Kherson bridgehead, it really means that Russian command will have no choice but to withdraw from Ukraine. There will be few options essentially: to withdraw from Ukraine or double down and throw conscripts into the war and sort of create numerical advantage in terms of infantry, because as you can imagine, conscripts are not equal to professional soldiers. Their motivation is going to be much lower, so you need many more of those. So you probably need, I don't know, 5, 6, 700,000. It's hard to predict the quality of conscript that Russian command will get. The other options is obviously, as we discussed, more sort of kind of like unconventional, using some tactical nuclear weapons, destroying all of the bridges across Dnipro River, and essentially separating Ukraine into two pieces. That probably will be hard to do given the number of the rockets that's needed, missiles that's needed. At this point, we doubt that the Russian troops, Russian command has that number of missiles in their disposal, because it means probably several hundred, probably 200-300 rockets that needed, probably even more, to destroy the bridges across Dnipro River. So basically, options for the Russian side at this point look very, very sort of bad, and you know, remains to be seen if they have any sort of ace in up their sleeve in terms of right now in the counteroffensive that they are about to launch. If this is because if that's counteroffensive is successful, this really means that actually attacking Ukrainian attacking troops could be trapped in encirclement. So, but let's just start now. General walkthrough, and then we'll do more deeper dive with the map on what's going on near Kupiansk. So along the state border, similar exchange of the fire, nothing sort of unusual, sort of everything remains more or less the same. Then let's move to actual front line straight east of Kharkiv. Things here are sort of more or less similar. Russian sources report that there was some pressure from Ukrainian side in some of the areas here, but this is obviously not essential area. Let's move actually now to this Kupyansk, Izyum, and Balakliya area, and let's actually look a little bit more sort of do more deeper dive. So by the end of the day, it was actually somewhere in the middle of the day, Ukrainian troops reached this village Hrushivka here. Russian military administration, the sort of Kharkiv region, fled and moved to Vovchansk, which is kind of like in the northwest of here. So it's actually might be visible here. Here, this Vovchansk. Kupiansk is here, so they fled to Vovchansk essentially. This is essentially on the border with Russia. So and then towards the end of the day, there was attempted sort of infiltration of Ukrainian commando unit into Kupiansk, but it was repelled by Russian troops there. Then what happened, and another important feature of this offensive, which is something new and something that's extremely positive and a sign of extreme skill, is that Ukrainian troops, when they attack, they don't sort of stand and try to assault Russian strongholds like here was in Shevchenkove. Similar with Balakliya, they just bypass and keep moving forward. So this is something new, something sort of very not typical for the Soviet approach to the war. And that allowed actually Ukrainian troops sometime in the middle of the day get to this village Senkove, where there's a bridge. So this main kind of road that goes through Kupiansk, and with supply pass for all of this Izium. Russian Izium group was going through Senkove. So essentially this road is severed at this point. And then what we discussed before, the pass right now has to go through sort of Svatove, and this is really like much longer bypass right now. There is still bridge here, which we believe was destroyed by Ukrainian troops, but we're pretty sure that Russian military engineers repaired this. And there is another crossing here in this area. There's a small road here, but the main road kind of goes here. So at this point, the supply and logistics of Russian troops is definitely damaged. They still can be supplied, as we explained. So this main road here, the crossing. However, it would be strange if Ukrainian sort of command and reconnaissance unit didn't get on the eastern side of Oskil River and started to sort of spread around to kind of damage and try to inflict as much damage to Russian supplies that going through Borova. Essentially, this is going to be sort of main supply route is through Borova, and it goes through Svatova, and it goes through the whole sort of Luhansk region at this point. So this is the sort of main significance. Essentially, even if Ukrainian troops don't capture Kupyansk, they essentially achieved objective by just taking this village a little bit more south of Kupyansk, Senkove. At the same time, they're trying to put little pressure, but not too much pressure on Russian troops here. So, based on our information, Savinci is still in Russian hands. At the same time, it's very clear there was no objective to put a lot of pressure on these troops here, because essentially they are in a pocket at this point. If Ukrainian command troops manage to hold on to this kind of gains here, then this is essential. They are essentially in pocket. There's no point of putting pressures. All of these troops will get sort of suffocated due to the shortage of ammunition and fuels, essentially within 2-3 days, because the supply will sort of will go down somewhat, and they will be forced to kind of exit through basically 2 doors left, this one and this one. I'm pretty sure that this will be attacked with HIMARS systems, and this one is pretty small. It's kind of like it's not quite field road, but it's like definitely secondary road that would be, relative large number of troops will have to exit through this small door, and that really virtually guarantees that a lot of equipment will be abandoned. And many also, like soldiers, infantry, will also become prisoners of war. But that's essentially what's going on. We also would like to mention that there is another unit that we have identified, which is 18th Russian 18th Division. There are some sort of parts of it operating here. We still don't know full extent if the entire unit here or just one regiment, or sort of to what extent it participates in all of this, and where the sort of rest of it is still unclear, but it's operating somewhere in this region. Maybe it could be also parts of it on Izyum bridgehead. So where the Russian counteroffensive could happen is it's probably going to be directed towards Shevchenkove, because there's no point to attack here out of Kupiansk. The most dangerous for Ukrainian side would be attack directed towards Shevchenkove and sort of kind of like going along this road and recapturing Balakliya. That would essentially guarantees encirclement of all of this 3 Ukrainian brigades, probably some more like standalone battalions there, probably standalone regiments there. So basically there's going to be a bunch of there's more than 3 brigades here, but it's impossible to track those other units. So we pretty much sure that they're going to be attacked towards Shevchenkove, and this is the key stronghold right now in Ukrainian defenses here. Or Russian troops can try to do the same, to basically bypass Shevchenkove on either side and try to, basically the point is to reach this Balakliya and recapture Balakliya again. It will be probably hard at this point to recapture Balakliya, but nevertheless, they can essentially they need to reach Siversky Donetsk and cut off all of this Ukrainian troops. That's their goal. It's probably going to be hard to achieve. It's not easy objective, but we also don't know amount of troops that Russian command will throw into this offensive. So it remains to be seen how this is going to be developing. As we said, the first phase of this operation won by Ukrainian troops, by Ukrainian command, and now they need to hold on to their victory, because essentially that's it. The Russian troops on Izium bridgehead are basically done. So we'll see in the coming, on the 9th what's happening there, and I'll be providing sort of middle of the day updates on the community board as I did before. So this is kind of like the major sort of developments right now here. Now let's move to the bridgehead itself. Russian troops are still engaged here. They're still attacking in this area, Dovinke, Debrivne, which is, I would say, very strange, let's put this way. It's quite a bit of a confidence that everything's going to go well, because at this point they really lost opportunity to withdraw. By the way, it looks like it's actually missed one point. So there's this road here. There's also a road here in the that's near village Pasika. So they probably can try to sort of get out, and supply will be sort of starting going through here. Except this is definitely kind of like as I said, like secondary roads. It's not the best sort of route. But remains to be seen. At the same time, Ukrainian troops are trying to infiltrate and capture sort of bridgeheads on the eastern side of Seversky Donetsk. So Ukrainian troops or reconnaissance units were in Ozerne, then Starey Caravan. What they discovering? What they discovering that there are no Russian troops here. This is kind of like what's called gray zone. So probably were Russian something. There is some Russian unit probably in Liman, because it's relatively well. It's at least it's a town relative to the villages, and as mentioned before, there's simply shortage of Russian infantry. So a lot of places are sort of remain sort of call it unattended, and we don't even know if there is anything in Yamper at this point. It's probably something similar again on here in this Yereva, in this area. Probably there is nothing there as well. So might be the sort of the plan down the road to kind of attack out of this whole area and to liberate Liman, with sort of idea potentially to sort of move north or north, north, yes, just more or less north, and sort of connect with the Ukrainian troops up there. So this is the situation. It's, we would say, pretty catastrophic for the Russian troops at this point. Remains to be seen if they manage to sort of minimize the losses, to make it, to withdraw the troops and not to lose too much, or they may, if their counteroffensive is going to be successful. So, as we said, we're going to be providing updates, because we're pretty sure there will be some counterattacks on the 9th. Now let's move to North Donbas section of the front line. Things here are more or less the same. Attacks aimed at Soledar, Bakhmut, without much success. Everything sort of stable here. There are also attacks here at Zaitsev, and then also Russian troops are moving sort of west of Kadema. So you can see they created this new salient. It's possible that they also captured this area. We just don't have any confirmation in this area. Basically, the salient is much bigger, potentially. We're just kind of like putting what we have confirmation at this point for. Then also attacks from Mayorsky, also kind of like aimed towards northwest. Nothing sort of unusual here. Now let's look what's going on in this central Donbas section of the front line. Also attacks out of typical sort of areas. One that's like northeast of Avdiivka, then a bunch of attacks out of this Pisky salient, and then attacks in Marinka. At this point, this is, even though attacks where it's more like a probing attack, just to see if Ukrainian defenses has been softened enough by the Russian artillery. So far, based on what we hear, the Ukrainian defense is still holding on. This is just a small section. Look at the area around Pisky. So the attacks were basically in this area here, towards Pervomaisky, then here around Kamenka. So just typical areas of attack, nothing really new here. The Zaporizhia section of the front line is more or less quiet for now. Obviously there is exchange of all sorts of artillery fire, airstrikes, mortar fire is there as always. Now let's look what's going on Kherson bridgehead. So here Ukrainian 28th Brigade was successful penetrating Russian defenses, not very deep, just 2 kilometers. Basically, they captured sort of initial strongholds. What is more interesting is that the resistance by the 20th division wasn't that strong at all, so they kind of withdrew pretty much at their sort of, let's say, low, like slight pressure of Ukrainian troops, which could be also a sign that sort of like psychological, let's say, breakdown among some of the Russian troops. And this is actually the most important difference, is that, as we can see, this airborne troops has strong fighting spirit and motivation, and obviously special forces brigade, but the regular regular Russian troops, apparently there's some kind of breakdown in morale there going on. Also, Ukrainian command continues attacks on ferries. They destroyed another ferry somewhere here. So basically, the supply here is extremely severe, and that's probably part of the reason why this attack also was successful, because simple Russian artillery is lacking ammunition to provide cover for the infantry there, and without that, apparently Russian infantry is not willing to sort of fight or put their lives at risk. Let's put this way. So this, what is going on here, we continue repeating the same story. It's a death by thousand cuts. The writing is on the wall, and Russia will lose this bridgehead. It probably may take, we don't know, like 10, 20, 30 days, but basically it's virtually guaranteed. Let's put it this way. It's actually, in many ways, situation here is much more guaranteed than situation near Kupiansk in Izyum bridgehead, because there could be strong Russian counterattack, which potentially can reverse everything here. Essentially, Russian troops cannot do much. They basically in a trap. It just there's going to be very drawn out destruction of the Russian troops here. That's the only difference. And also want to compare and contrast. Here, Ukrainian troops, the command is a lot less skilled, and the attacks more sort of typical Soviet attacks, more frontal attacks. There's no this kind of like flexibility in maneuver, and for that reason the losses here are higher relative to attack there in Kharkiv region. The losses are extremely low on the Ukrainian side, and the losses on the Russian side are pretty heavy, and especially heavy in equipment. That's it for today. Thanks for watching, and until tomorrow, bye bye.